Hello, my friends. So we have the final full moon of 2025. It's going to be this Saturday in Cancer, exact at 5:02 a.m. Eastern. I may be looking at my notes if I look away. And it's a very interesting full moon. Um, Full moons in Cancer are always interesting. Cancer uh, rules the moon, and Cancer brings our feelings to the surface. Full moons always intensify our feelings. So, this full moon being at the end of a very tumultuous year, and because we're going into the new year, at least according to the Gregorian calendar, we're already thinking about what happened this past year, what we want to release, what we want to welcome in 2026. We are closing out a 9 year. 2026 is a 1 year in numerology. And so we're starting a whole new 9 year cycle. So as we approach this full moon, you may be feeling those feelings around that. What have you not accomplished this year? What feels undone for you? And the actual astrology of the full moon is also pretty interesting as well, which may be intensifying our natural tendencies to think like that at the end of the year anyway. It's going to be opposing Venus and Mars. Molly McCord refers to Venus as the divine feminine when it's in its highest expression, and Mars is the divine masculine when it's in its highest expression. So the fact that this full moon is going to be opposite our divine masculine and our divine feminine at the same time that it's conjunct Jupiter, which is also currently transiting through Cancer. My intuition is that this full moon is going to be highlighting for all of us where we feel like we're out of harmony with our own inner feminine and our own inner masculine. And this is whether you identify as male, female, they, non binary. Most of us have aspects of feminine and masculine energy. So you may be looking at, well, I am inviting us all to look at this full moon as an invitation to look at our relationship first with ourselves, our inner feminine energy, our inner masculine energy, and where would we like to experience more harmony in that. And also, because it is a full moon, it may also be highlighting aspects of your romantic relationship and how that dance between the feminine and the masculine polarity is going. And this is true even if you're in a same sex relationship. Because even in same sex trans relationships, one person has more dominant masculine energy most of the time, and the other person has more dominant feminine energy most of the time. So, if you have been having issues in a romantic partnership, or maybe even in a friendship, a family relationship, this full moon can intensify those feelings, those unmet needs, those areas of intimacy that are asking to be healed. And I say that because this full moon is also going to be squaring Chiron. Chiron in astrology is often referred to as the wounded healer. It's the wound that we're always working with. And it was interesting. We were talking about this in my Q&A. I have a monthly, I have a weekly Q&A in my Skool community. It's only $9 a month, $50 a year. But once a week, I meet with the folks, and they were asking what Chiron is. And I explained to them that Chiron is that wound that we're always moving through, working through. Or I often think of Chiron the way the old church ladies would talk about how you have to have the test before the testimony. I think that's a great way to sum up Chiron. It's always helping us move through a major aspect, a major issue, so that can become a better version of ourselves. And a classic example of this is, say you have a fear of abandonment, and maybe you're in a healthy romantic relationship, a healthy marriage, a long-term relationship. And despite knowing that your partner is always going to be there for you, you have healthy communication skills, healthy dynamics, there will still always be moments in that romantic relationship where that fear of abandonment comes up. It gets triggered. Because every time you move through a new layer of that wound, you are able to experience more intimacy in that romantic relationship. And so I feel like that is Chiron's purpose in our lives, in our chart, in our spiritual development, in our emotional growth. Chiron is always having us go back to a particular wound so that we can see it from a different level, a different vantage point. I feel like it's a great example of what some people in metaphysical communities refer to as the spiral. Often we feel like we're going back over an old issue, an old pattern, a own, an old wound, but it's because we're spiraling up. So every time you go back to that wound, that pattern, you're seeing it from a wider, higher perspective because the spiral is always moving up and out. So I think it's important to remind ourselves that if you are revisiting an old pattern, an old dynamic issue within a relationship, which often happens in a romantic relationship because it's a very strong mirror of what we're moving through. It's not necessarily that you're going over the same pattern or going through the same wound in the same way. You're actually experiencing it from a healthier, more healed version of yourself. And sometimes it can feel more painful because you're more conscious, you're more aware, you're more open to feeling your feelings. You're no longer tamping it down, stuffing it, numbing it, ignoring it, running away from it. So if you have an experience like that during this full moon, as it we build towards it, or this weekend, or even a few days afterwards, if that happens to you, be kind to yourself and be proud of yourself of how much you've grown, how much you've learned on your spiritual journey, your spiritual path, and how knowing that as you move through this, as you heal from it, you will be able to experience deeper levels of intimacy with yourself and with your partner. And this could be happening, like I said, in a friend relationship. It may be happening maybe with you and a parent or you and your child. I feel like, especially because cancer is often about the home as well, our family, our foundation that we grew up with. This full moon, it could potentially trigger those issues. But no, like I said, if you are having that experience, because of all the work you've done, all the shadow work you've done this year and last year, if it does feel more intense, it's because you're actually healing and you are becoming more vulnerable, which allows you to experience more emotional depth, more emotional connection, a stronger emotional connection. And I feel like that's really going to be the theme for a lot of folks during this full moon. That's my intuition around it as well. And so if that's the case, and if you need support, reach out to therapists, um, talk to friends that are, close friends, close family relationships, do the emotional processing that you need to do if you need to do that, and do the other self-nurturing activities as well. Full moon in Cancer, especially great time, to have a really sweet healing bath, maybe with herbs or salt. Maybe come up with a water ritual as a full moon ritual for yourself. Um, you can maybe get a cup or a bowl of water, light a candle, and speak into the water all that you want to have washed away, whatever pain, unhealed experiences, certain dynamics, speak it all into the water and then pour it down the drain. Maybe that could be very healing for you. Something along those lines could be helpful. Um, and also look at where you can be kinder to yourself. Where do you need to be more open and receptive in healing your inner feminine, your divine feminine? I feel like more of us have more work in terms of being more in touch with our divine feminine. And I've been talking to people, and a lot of people have been feeling this softening since the winter solstice. And I think that's part of it. I think we're becoming more comfortable with that aspect of ourselves. We've also had a lot of water energy astrologically the last couple of months. But I think as a result of that, and I think as a result of many of us taking the time to meet ourselves, to be with our feelings, we have become softer and kinder to ourselves. And there's a feeling of being able to kind of just go with the flow. I know many people are not necessarily feeling the need to do a lot this week. I don't know a lot of people doing big New Year's Eve's events and that sort of thing. It seems like people really want to be very internal, very self contained, more reflective. And this week feels like an invitation to really just go slow, go at our own pace, take our time with things, and just really sit with our feelings and just feel what our bodies need. What kind of rest do we need? Give yourself permission to experience that rest, as you reflect on what you want to bring into the new year. And it's really funny too. I was reflecting on this earlier, is that I thought I would feel like 2026 was going to begin in February, just because we have a February eclipse and we have that great conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in Aries. I was initially feeling that 2026 wouldn't feel like it started energetically for me until mid-February. But I feel like 2026 actually started around the winter solstice. I already feel like I'm in 2026. So I'm curious if you're feeling that way as too. And if you are, you can always just put in the comments 2026. This is a good reminder, a time for me to remind you as well to subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. That does help me get the message out to more people. But yeah, I feel like I'm already in 2026. I feel like my new year has begun. I already feel like I'm a new expanded version of myself. And I'm actually really excited about 2026. I think the energy is going to be very different than what we've experienced in 2025. I'm not sure if it's going to be less intense. I suspect 2026 is going to still feel intense, but in a different way than 2025 felt. And so, if you do need support around that, I do have my Witnessing You sessions. That's $30 for 30 minutes. It's an opportunity for me to help you see a truer version of yourself, help you remove the blocks or the blinders or the layers that are keeping you from really stepping into and living your unlimited possibilities. It's a shorter version of my longer session, which is 90 minutes, You Illuminated. I also have my Skool community that I mentioned earlier, and I'll have links down to that all below as well. I also do offer a PDF from helping you with your content creation planning so that you don't feel like you have to always be on a constant content creation hamster wheel. I am going to be going on vacation in January 2026. So there'll probably be 2 or 3 weeks where there's only one video a week. I'm going to record those ahead of time so that I can take a full 2.5 weeks off from everything. So if I drop down to one video a week, that's probably what's happened. So hopefully you will continue to still visit the channel and receive value from my content. I will have one more video for the end of the year 2025. But if you do miss that video, thank you for visiting the channel. Thank you for being a returning subscriber if you are. Thank you for visiting if you're new. I do hope you return. And I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who has continued to support this channel, continue to support me, helping me in my own spiritual and professional growth. And I have so much more that I wanted to deliver to you all in the community in 2026. So I really hope you do come along for the ride, join me on this journey. And again, I believe in you. I support you. You're doing more amazing than you probably give yourself credit for. So with that, peacefully yours, Darice.